Jack Barsky is really a Russian spy, lived here in the United States for a long time. He's an amazing life, just an amazing life. And he lived really the life of the FX show, The Americans. In fact, he consulted on that for a while, which premieres again tonight. I think it's its final season tonight. If you haven't watched The Americans, I love it. First season is like, okay, I got it. You can have sex. I got it.
That was what they wanted to prove with the first season?
Yeah, I think so. Like, and then they were like, and then people actually got interested in the storyline. And so they're like, okay, we don't have to do sex all the time.
That is seemingly what a lot of series do.
It really is.
They suck you in with the sex and violence early seasons.
Right. And it just gets to be really, really smart and good and really takes you through the 1980s in a show in a way that I haven't seen done before. But anyway, that's premiering tonight. Jack Barsky is going to be on with us because I don't know if you saw this. Do you remember when I said that the hyperspeed weapons I thought was the Russians playing us, just like Ronald Reagan played Russia with Star Wars? We didn't have laser weapons. Do they have hypersonic weapons? They say yes. Interesting story came out yesterday that China is now saying that they have hypersonic weapons as well. So the story that I read from the military-industrial complex was they have them, and it's an arms race, and we are way behind on hypersonic weapons. That's exactly what happened during the 1980s that collapsed the Soviet Union. Is this real, or is this a replay of Ronald Reagan in reverse on us with Russia and now China? Jack Barsky, next. Jack Barsky, now an American, was born in East Germany right after World War II, and he was recruited by the KGB when he was a college student to become a spy. He spent 10 years as an undercover agent in the United States, starting in 1978. He was a Soviet spy based in New York City, where he was watching the final days of the Cold War unfold here in the United States. Even as a KGB spy, his life has taken a few unexpected turns. He severed his relationship with the KGB in 1988 and pursued a corporate career in information technology. He was finally captured by the FBI in 1997. He's been on 60 Minutes. He has a new book called Deep Undercover, My Secret Life and Tangled Allegiances as a KGB Spy in America. Jack, welcome back to the program. How are you?
Well, thanks for having me back. I'm good. Before we start this, allow me to volunteer something. I've been in Germany and Poland for the last 3 weeks, and I found a species that is increasingly rare in the United States, journalists.
What are you hearing? You're in Poland now, are you not?
I am in Warsaw, yes.
Yeah. What are you seeing the difference in news reporting?
Well, they ask intelligent questions. They are informed. You know, I don't get blank stares when I mention some names of the past. And I think there's more real interest in what's going on in the world. And this, of course, in Europe, they have a different geography and so forth. So there's an explanation why Americans are navel gazers to some extent. But the level of ignorance that I've encountered in the United States with regard to what's going on right now in this world is astounding, and it's scary.
So, Jack, let me ask you a couple of questions because I think you would have some really good insight on the mind of Putin and Russia and what they're really doing. With the attack on the UK, bringing that particular weapon in, so it's known that it had to be Putin, what should the response be? And the response has been to kick out ambassadors and spies. Is that good enough? What should we be doing, and how is Putin going to respond?
I beg to differ with your premise that it's known it had to be Putin. It's a reasonable conclusion that it somehow leads in the direction of Russia. Whether that's Putin himself, I doubt very much. That just doesn't make any sense.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Think about why would this guy be killed at this point, and why would Putin concentrate on him personally? We don't know any of that. This is all speculation. You know, there's a possibility that somebody was trying to give him a present or something like that. But Putin wants to be seen as a statesman, as a player on the international scene. There's no good reason for him to go after this guy, that known reason, I'm saying. So what bothers me about this whole situation is that the politicians all over the world are competing with each other to be more anti-Russian, and that's very often based on internal politics. I'm more anti-Russian than you. That's a dangerous path to travel down when you subject foreign policy to politics that is emotionally charged to begin with. That's my real problem here. Whether it was Putin or not, I'm sorry. The real big deal is how the West is acting and reacting. And now I'm coming to your question. I believe that this is standard operating procedure in a situation like that. When you think somebody did something wrong, you let a few of the known spies, the diplomats that are undercover, but they're actually spies, you let them go. And then the other side retaliates, and when does it stop?
That's a question for you. I'm not sure. War?
I don't know either. The point being, though, when I look back, and people can have different opinions about Ronald Reagan, but Ronald Reagan dealt with the mighty Soviet Union in a different manner than we do right now dealing with the Russian. He projected a quiet, focused strength. We don't get this out of the White House. We don't get this out of Congress. And in Europe, they're also red with rage. But we need to band together as the West and show exactly what Reagan did in the 80s.
So, Jack, let me ask you, if Putin is playing the same game that Reagan played on us with this hypersonic weapon, there's no evidence that exists. There's calls now for a new arms race. They say China is now on this hypersonic weapon. Yeah. Is this the Ronald Reagan Star Wars play, or do you think they have this?
I don't know. Technology that makes incredible leaps, and I think it's a bluff. But that doesn't mean that in a few years some such weapon won't exist. All the more important is that as much as we have differences amongst these nations, us and China and us and Russia, all the more important it is to find a way to coexist, because one thing is clear: neither the Russians nor the Chinese are suicidal maniacs. That label belongs to the Koreans and the Iranians. We need to find a way to sit down and don't deliberately or accidentally blow up the world.
So we were just talking about China and North Korea. Yesterday, China announced that it was Kim Jong-un that went to China on that old-fashioned steam train, and they were talking. This is a sign, perhaps, that Donald Trump is pushing Asia into a corner and saying, look, you're going to have to deal with this because we're not going to put up with it anymore. Do you see this as a good thing or a bad thing?